Chris Dickerson is undoubtedly one of the most inspiring names in bodybuilding history. His journey stands out not only for his victories in competitions, but also for the cultural impact he left on the industry. He made history as the first openly gay bodybuilder and the first over 40 years old to win the Mr. Olympia title, an unprecedented achievement at the time. Additionally, Chris broke barriers as one of the shortest athletes to reach such a milestone, standing at just 5 feet 6 inches, 1.68 meters, tall. His story is an extraordinary example of perseverance, overcoming both physical and psychological challenges in an era dominated by rigid standards in the sport. Chris faced numerous prejudices throughout his career. In an industry that often favored younger, taller athletes, he was deemed too old and too short to compete at an elite level. Furthermore, his skin color and sexual orientation frequently made him a target of discrimination during a time when the sport was far less inclusive than it is today. Yet, none of this shook his determination. Against all odds, he proved that talent, hard work, and resilience could overcome any barrier. His 1982 Mr. Olympia victory was not just a personal triumph but a win for anyone who felt marginalized in the sport. However, Chris's achievement was not without controversy. Despite his flawless performance, many critics and fans consider the 1982 Mr. Olympia one of the most debated editions in history. While some argue that he was indeed the best that night, others label him as the worst Mr. Olympia of all time. But is that a fair assessment? Up next, I'll tell you why this competition sparked such controversy, and you can decide for yourself. Before we continue, I need your support to keep this channel growing and delivering content like this. If you enjoy my work, consider becoming a member. It's a simple way to help produce high-quality videos without breaking the bank. And if you're new here, you know the drill. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and turn on notifications. We're aiming to reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and your support is vital. Now, let's dive into this fascinating story. Chris Dickerson was born on August 25, 1939, in the heart of Alabama, as one of the triplets in a family marked by courage and resilience. From an early age, he witnessed an extraordinary example of strength and determination in his mother, Mahala Ashley Dickerson, a true trailblazer. Mahala was the first black woman to practice law in Alabama and the second to be admitted to the Indiana Bar Association in 1951. Beyond that, she was a tireless civil rights activist, fighting against racial and gender barriers during a time of deep segregation. A close friend of Rosa Parks, Mahala not only inspired her son, but also paved the way for many other African Americans to face racism with dignity and resolve. With this role model at home, Chris grew up understanding that life's challenges are meant to be overcome and that limitations imposed by others should never define who you are. During his school years, Chris began showcasing his athletic talent, excelling in various sports. However, his interests extended beyond the fields and courts. Drama and singing caught his attention, and he dreamed of becoming an opera singer. This passion led him to study at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York right after high school, where he dedicated himself to honing his vocal technique. During this time, one of his voice coaches suggested he strengthen his chest muscles to improve vocal projection and recommended weight training. To Chris, it seemed like an unusual idea, but he was open to trying. That simple suggestion to lift weights would unknowingly change the trajectory of his life forever. The moment that truly sealed Chris Dickerson's destiny occurred during a visit to his aunt's home in California. It was there that he stumbled upon a bodybuilding magazine featuring a photo of Bill Pearl, a living legend in the sport. Chris was captivated by how the human body could be sculpted with discipline and dedication. What had initially been a method to improve his voice quickly transformed into a consuming passion for bodybuilding. Determined to explore this new world, Chris moved to Los Angeles and began training at Bill Pearl's gym, seeking direct guidance from the master himself. Chris's dedication caught Pearl's attention, and he quickly recognized the young man's potential, deciding to train him personally. This became a pivotal moment in Dickerson's life, as he not only began shaping his physique but also developing the character that would define him as an athlete. Under Bill Pearl's mentorship, Chris learned that bodybuilding wasn't just about physical appearance, but also about discipline, resilience, and the ability to push past limitations. This partnership marked the beginning of a journey that would not only redefine bodybuilding, but also demonstrate that determination and talent could break through any barrier, whether physical or societal. To support himself during his time in Los Angeles, Chris took a job as a hospital aide, a humble role that provided him with a stable foundation as he pursued his dream of becoming a world-renowned bodybuilder. Every hospital shift was followed by long hours of training, showcasing his determination to transform both his body and his life. He knew the road to success would be challenging and was acutely aware of 3 key obstacles he needed to overcome to achieve his goals. The first was his sexual orientation. As an openly gay man, he faced widespread prejudice in a time and industry rife with homophobia. The second challenge was his skin color, as structural racism remained a stark reality in the United States, even in the sports world. The third and perhaps most formidable obstacle was his height. Standing at only 5 feet 6 inches, 1.68 meters, he competed in a sport largely dominated by taller athletes whose physiques were considered the ideal of the era. Chris understood that he could counter the biases against his sexual orientation and race with hard work, talent, and charisma, gradually changing how people perceived him as an individual. However, his height was an immutable characteristic that directly impacted how his physique would be judged in competitions. He knew he would need to compensate for this disadvantage with impeccable symmetry, proportion, and stage presentation, qualities that would become his signature. Despite these challenges, Chris remained undaunted. He began his bodybuilding journey at the age of 24, considered a late start in a sport where many athletes had been training since their teens and already had years of experience and physical development. For Chris, however, age was just a number. He knew that his determination and work ethic would set him apart in the sport. In 1965, just 2 years after beginning serious training, Chris made his competitive debut at the Mr. Long Beach contest. Despite being a newcomer, he already displayed a unique combination of poise, discipline, and stage presence that set him apart from other competitors. He earned 3rd place, a remarkable achievement for someone so new to the sport. More than just a podium finish, this success was a clear signal that he had the potential to go far. Chris realized that bodybuilding wasn't merely about size or brute strength, but also about aesthetics, balance, and the ability to captivate both the audience and the judges. This first milestone gave Chris the confidence he needed to dedicate himself to the sport with even greater intensity. Every competition became an opportunity to learn, every workout a chance to refine his physique, and every obstacle a reason to prove he was up to the challenge. Los Angeles wasn't just the place where he started training. It was the fertile ground where he planted the seeds of a career that would challenge norms and break barriers. The young hospital aide was just beginning to write his story, and the bodybuilding world would soon realize that Chris was not merely a competitor but a transformative force. Far from viewing his competitive debut at Mr. Long Beach as a failure, Chris always saw that moment as a turning point in his life. His 3rd place finish in that competition was a milestone he carried with pride, often recalling the event as one of his favorites. To this day, that trophy remains my sentimental favorite, Chris said on many occasions. I was never the same after winning my first award. This initial recognition sparked a new motivation in Chris, igniting a flame that would drive him to pursue excellence in bodybuilding with even greater determination. With renewed energy and focus, Chris decided to take his passion to the next level. In 1966, he competed in 12 contests across the East Coast of the United States, one after another, facing increasingly experienced and prepared opponents. The results were astonishing. Chris emerged victorious in every single competition. In just 1 year, he transformed his dedication and hard work into an undefeated streak that put him in the national bodybuilding spotlight. His ability to combine a symmetrical and aesthetically flawless physique with captivating stage presence made him a true sensation in the sport. These achievements not only solidified his confidence, but also captured the attention of the bodybuilding community. What had started as a distant dream now seemed like an inevitable reality. Chris was evolving rapidly and establishing himself as one of the most promising competitors of his time. His meteoric rise made it clear that he wasn't just another athlete trying to stand out, but someone with the potential to reach the sport's highest echelons. It was only a matter of time before Chris recognized his own greatness, worthy of a Mr. Olympia title. This early phase of victories also highlighted Chris's determination to exceed the expectations imposed by his height, age, and background. He demonstrated that with dedication, talent, and the right mindset, it was possible to break barriers and change narratives. With every trophy he earned, he reinforced the idea that bodybuilding is not just about muscles but also about the inner strength needed to overcome challenges and achieve true excellence. After 1966, Chris Dickerson became one of the biggest highlights in the bodybuilding world, drawing attention not only for the quality of his physique, but also for his ability to connect with the audience. His growing popularity was fueled by his frequent appearances in specialized magazines and extensive media coverage, which transformed him into one of the most recognized athletes of his era. He attributed much of this success to the meticulous balance of his body proportions, something few could achieve. A standout detail was the symmetry between the measurements of his calves, neck, and biceps, which created a rare and highly valued harmony in the bodybuilding world of that time. This level of physical perfection not only impressed judges, but also set him apart as a living example of the aesthetic standard the sport was beginning to embrace. But Chris's success extended beyond his physique. He had a unique advantage that set him apart from his competitors: his background in dramatic arts. The years he spent at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York had equipped him with unparalleled skills in body expression, stage presence, and charisma. He knew how to present himself in a way that captivated both the judges and the audience, using strategically executed poses and a magnetic presence. This theatrical talent allowed him to maximize every movement, turning each presentation into a spectacle. It wasn't just about muscles. It was about telling a story through his body, something Chris mastered and used to distinguish himself as a competitor. Determined to elevate his career further, Chris returned to training under the guidance of his mentor, Bill Pearl, a legend in the sport. Together, they set an ambitious goal: to win the Mr. America title in 1967. Training intensified, with weightlifting sessions 5 days a week and posing practice on the 6th, all meticulously planned to ensure Chris was at his best. However, despite all his effort and dedication, he finished 6th overall in the competition. While the result was disappointing, Chris didn't let it shake his confidence. Instead, he used the experience as fuel to continue improving and refining his physique. That resilience paid off. In 1970, Chris reached the pinnacle of his career at that time by winning 2 of the most prestigious titles in bodybuilding: Mr. America, AAU, and Mr. Universe, NABA. These victories not only cemented his position as one of the best competitors in the world, but also proved that he could dominate in both American and European federations. His pursuit of excellence led him to make a bold decision: to move to England, where he could regularly compete in NABA events, which were primarily based in Europe. During this period, Chris solidified his dominance in the sport, accumulating victories and building a legacy that not only challenged standards but redefined them. He was no longer just a competitor. He was becoming a living legend, leaving his mark on every stage he graced. Chris Dickerson continued to rack up victories in NABA's Mr. Universe competitions for several years, solidifying his reputation as one of the most consistent and dedicated athletes in bodybuilding. However, his ambition drove him to aim for an even greater prize: the coveted Mr. Olympia title, the pinnacle of professional bodybuilding, hosted by the IFBB. In 1979, Chris began his journey in the IFBB, marking a new chapter in his career. At 40 years old, an age when many athletes were considering retirement, he was just beginning his quest for the sport's most prestigious title. For Chris, it was a case of now or never. He knew he was competing against bodybuilders in the prime of their careers while he was already in middle age, but this didn't intimidate him. On the contrary, It only fueled his determination. The beginning of this new phase was challenging. Competing against younger athletes at their physical peak required Chris to double down on his efforts and refine every aspect of his preparation. Despite the obstacles, he didn't see this as a setback, but rather as an opportunity to prove to himself and the world that age is no barrier to excellence. His focus, discipline, and work ethic made him a formidable competitor, and he quickly began to stand out among the best in the IFBB. One of the most defining competitions of Chris Dickerson's career was the 1980 Mr. Olympia, held in Sydney, Australia. The event made history not only for its high level of competitors, but also for the surprise entry of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was returning to competition after years away from the stage. Arnold's presence completely shifted the atmosphere of the event. Chris and many other competitors feared that, regardless of their performances, Arnold would secure the title due to his immense popularity and legendary status in the sport. Unfortunately, those fears seemed to come true. Arnold was declared the winner, with Chris taking second place and Frank Zane coming in third. Despite his flawless performance, Chris felt his loss wasn't due to the quality of his physique, but rather the influence of external factors, a sentiment shared by many fans and analysts in the sport. The Australian Bodybuilding Association echoed this dissatisfaction with the results and decided to award Chris a symbolic title of champion as a protest against what they saw as biased judging. However, Chris wasn't satisfied with symbolic victories. He wanted to win the Mr. Olympia title outright, leaving no room for doubt or controversy. Determined to achieve an undisputed victory, he doubled down on his efforts and directed all his focus toward the next Olympia. For Chris, this wasn't just another competition. It was an opportunity to secure a triumph recognized by all judges and fans without any questions. This episode only strengthened his resolve, proving to the world that he was willing to fight until the end to achieve greatness. Unfortunately, the 1981 Mr. Olympia brought another dose of frustration for Chris Dickerson. Once again, he finished in second place, this time behind Franco Columbu, a close friend of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Despite his flawless physique and a masterful stage presentation, Chris saw the title slip away again. The result not only disappointed Chris but also reignited questions about the judging criteria, particularly regarding the influence of popular figures like Arnold and his allies in the sport. Still, as always, Chris accepted defeat with grace, though internally he began to question whether continuing to compete was worth it. He seriously considered retiring, feeling that his dream of being crowned Mr. Olympia might never come true. In this moment of doubt, fate intervened through Winston Roberts, a respected Canadian bodybuilding official. Winston approached Chris and gave him advice that resonated deeply. "Chris, if you don't come back, you're making it easy for everyone else. They won't have to deal with you." These simple but powerful words reignited Chris's competitive spirit. He realized he still had much to offer the sport and, more importantly, to himself. With this encouragement, he resolved to prepare for one more attempt, determined to give everything he had in pursuit of the title he had been chasing for so long. The result of this effort culminated in a historic moment at the 1982 Mr. Olympia. At 43 years old, an age when most bodybuilders had long retired, Chris Dickerson stepped onto the stage in peak physical and emotional condition. He showcased an absolutely symmetrical physique with impeccable proportions and a stage presence that combined charisma, control, and technical perfection. That year, there were no controversies. Chris was crowned Mr. Olympia in one of the most significant victories in the history of the sport. His win was not just a personal triumph, but also a cultural milestone. He became the first openly gay bodybuilder to win the Mr. Olympia title and, at the time, the oldest champion to do so. His victory broke barriers and challenged prejudices, proving that true talent and determination know no limits. With his ultimate goal finally achieved, Chris Dickerson decided to retire from competitive bodybuilding. He left the stage as a legend, celebrated not only for his accomplishments but also for his lasting impact on the sport. His story inspired thousands, demonstrating that perseverance, authenticity, and resilience can overcome any obstacle, whether physical or social. However, Chris had one final surprise for his fans, and for himself. In 1994, more than a decade after his retirement, he decided to return for one last performance, competing in the Masters category for athletes over 50 years old. Chris's return was more than just another competition. It was a celebration of his journey and dedication to bodybuilding. Even after so many years away from the competitive circuit, Chris proved that he still possessed the discipline and passion that had made him a legend. His participation in the Masters category wasn't merely an exhibition of strength and symmetry, but also a powerful message. It's never too late to continue challenging yourself and inspiring others. This comeback further cemented his legacy, solidifying Chris Dickerson as one of the greatest icons in bodybuilding history, whose influence transcends generations and remains vibrant today. In the world of bodybuilding, as time passes, debates about who is the greatest athlete of all time continue to captivate fans and critics. Names like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ronnie Coleman, Lee Haney, and Dorian Yates frequently top these lists, celebrated for their remarkable physiques and unparalleled contributions to the sport. However, there's a less frequent but equally intriguing debate at the opposite end of the spectrum. Who is the least impressive Mr. Olympia of all time? For many, this controversial title is often attributed to Chris Dickerson, the 1982 Mr. Olympia champion. Despite his groundbreaking victory as the first openly gay champion and, at the time, the oldest winner, criticisms of his physique and performance that year have fueled discussions that persist to this day. One of the most frequently mentioned critiques of Chris's physique is his pointed elbows, a feature that became notorious within the bodybuilding community. Many speculate that this condition may be associated with prolonged use of growth hormones, which in some cases can cause bone or connective tissue changes. However, there's also a plausible medical explanation: bursitis. This condition involves inflammation of the bursae, small fluid-filled sacs that cushion the bones, muscles, and tendons around joints. If left untreated, accumulated fluid can calcify, creating permanent protrusions that give the elbows a pointed appearance. In Chris's case, this feature was so noticeable that it became a constant topic of discussion. While it could have been addressed through surgical intervention, Chris chose not to undergo the procedure, which perpetuated this peculiarity throughout his career. Another frequently criticized aspect of Chris's physique was the relatively small size of his arms. For a Mr. Olympia champion, the visual impact of the arms is critical, as they are one of the most evaluated muscle groups by judges and admired by fans. Compared to other iconic champions like Ronnie Coleman, Phil Heath, or even his contemporary Franco Columbu, Chris's arms appeared less voluminous and commanding. This perception was further magnified by his height of 5 feet 6 inches, 1.68 meters, which, in a sport historically dominated by taller athletes, made him appear smaller on stage. While Chris compensated for his lack of size with well-balanced proportions, this wasn't always enough to impress judges and fans who expected a more imposing presence from a champion. Chris's abdominal aesthetics have also often been the subject of criticism. In bodybuilding, well-defined and symmetrical abs are a critical element in creating the appearance of a balanced and striking physique. In Chris's case, many felt his genetic structure fell short of expectations. His abs lacked the same symmetry and depth displayed by other Olympia athletes, such as Frank Zane or Shawn Ray. However, Chris managed to compensate for this limitation with an overall level of admirable definition. In 1982, he showcased a highly detailed physique with deep cuts and sharp lines, reflecting his dedication to preparation. This quality was widely acknowledged as a positive aspect, even by those who critique other areas of his physique. Despite his achievements, Chris's 1982 Mr. Olympia victory remains a topic of debate. Many fans and critics question whether he truly measured up to the title compared to other champions. His pointed elbows, smaller arm volume, and less impactful abdominal aesthetics are frequently cited as reasons for labeling him one of the least impressive Olympia winners. However, it's essential to contextualize his win. Chris overcame significant barriers, including prejudices related to his age, sexual orientation, and height to reach bodybuilding's pinnacle. His victory wasn't just a personal triumph but a milestone in the sport, proving that determination and resilience can overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. While critiques are part of Chris Dickerson's legacy, his contribution to bodybuilding transcends the physical limitations others often highlight. He paved the way for future athletes and challenged the expectations of a sport that has historically favored specific body types. His story serves as a reminder that bodybuilding is as much about personal triumph as it is about aesthetics, and for this reason, his impact continues to resonate in the sport today. In addition to criticisms of Chris's physique, many believe the quality of the 1982 lineup was weaker compared to previous years, which may have contributed to his Olympia win. Unlike earlier or later editions, the 1982 competition lacked some of the sport's biggest names, allowing Chris to shine with his incredible conditioning and stage presence. This perception, coupled with critiques of his physique, has fueled the idea that his victory was less impactful compared to other historic Olympia champions. In the later years of his life, Chris faced a series of health challenges that tested his trademark strength and resilience. The year 2020 was particularly difficult, not just for Chris but for the entire world due to the global pandemic. In March, he suffered a fall at home, resulting in a hip fracture that required hospitalization. During his recovery, he experienced a severe heart attack, leading to the implantation of a pacemaker to stabilize his condition. As if these challenges weren't enough, while still hospitalized, Chris contracted the virus that was ravaging the world at the time, putting his health at even greater risk. Yet, with the fighting spirit that defined his life, he overcame these adversities and celebrated his 81st birthday, a milestone symbolizing his determination to keep going. Sadly, his health continued to decline in the years that followed. In December 2021, Chris passed away at a hospital in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, after battling a long and complicated cardiac illness. His longtime friend Bill Nealon confirmed the news to the Washington Post, explaining that Chris had been living in a rehabilitation clinic after suffering a stroke. He was 82 years old, leaving behind a legacy of perseverance and resilience that will continue to inspire generations. The news of his death was first reported by Sean Ray through the Muscle Digital magazine on Instagram, quickly mobilizing the bodybuilding community to pay tribute to one of the sport's most iconic and controversial figures. Chris Dickerson was much more than a bodybuilding champion. He was a trailblazer, breaking barriers and challenging norms in a time when diversity and inclusion were far from being priorities in the sport. Despite the criticisms he faced throughout his career, he left an indelible mark on bodybuilding, not only for his achievements but also for his unwavering determination in the face of adversity. His passing closes a significant chapter in bodybuilding history, but his legacy endures as a reminder that greatness isn't measured solely by physical attributes, but also by courage, resilience, and the ability to inspire others. Whether or not he is considered the least impressive Mr. Olympia, one thing is undeniable. Chris Dickerson's story commands respect. He was an athlete who defied the odds and proved that with determination and focus, it's possible to reach the top, even in a sport as demanding as bodybuilding. Competing in 60 events throughout his career is a feat few can claim. This journey not only demonstrates Chris's consistency and longevity in the sport, but also reflects his unconditional love for bodybuilding and his remarkable ability to reinvent himself over the years. He didn't just compete. He left a lasting legacy, breaking barriers and proving to the world that bodybuilding is more than just size and muscle volume. It's about resilience, discipline, and perseverance. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your take on Chris Dickerson? Do you agree with the opinion that he had the least impressive physique among Mr. Olympia champions? Or do you think his victory was well-deserved, considering factors like symmetry, conditioning, and the historical context of his win? Were the judging criteria in 1982 strict enough, or did the result reflect a less competitive lineup? More importantly, how do you evaluate Chris's impact on the sport? Was he a pioneer who defied prejudice and redefined standards, or did his victory truly fall short of the expectations for a Mr. Olympia? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know what you think. These debates keep the essence of bodybuilding alive and help us better understand the nuances of this incredible sport. Also, make sure to share this video with a friend who's passionate about bodybuilding and can't miss this discussion. Spread the word so more people can join in on this conversation. If you're new to the channel, don't leave without hitting the like button, subscribing, and turning on notifications. These actions really help boost visibility and let YouTube know this content deserves to reach more viewers. Plus, your support is what drives me to keep bringing you videos like this, filled with inspiring stories, relevant debates, and fascinating insights about the greatest names in bodybuilding. And don't forget, we're on a mission to reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I'm counting on you to help us achieve this goal. Your subscription makes all the difference and allows me to continue producing high-quality content for you. So, let's strengthen this community and keep the conversation alive. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.